This is ARC PDX.
Hello everybody, welcome to ARC PDX. I'm Wesley Ogle and ARC PDX is on the road this morning. We are here at Migration Brewing in Gresham, and this morning we are diving deep into Oregon's beer industry. So here are some quick facts to get you all started. Oregon's beer industry brings in $8.9 billion of economic activity to the state each year. It also accounts for more than 46,000 jobs. That's according to an economic impact study by Beer Serves America, commissioned by the Beer Institute and the National Beer Wholesalers Association. Now, according to the 2025 Breweries in Oregon report by the marketing research firm Ibis World, Oregon has the 8th most establishments among the states. At the county level, Multnomah County has the most and brings in the most money. The report also found that the number of breweries in Oregon grew since 2020. However, in the next 5 years, that number is expected to shrink. And at the national level, 2025 is set to be the second straight year when brewery closings are outpacing brewery openings. That's according to the Brewers Association. The good news is that the closings represent just 4.4% of total operating breweries. The Brewers Association's staff economist says the days of calm are gone. He lists changing consumer behaviors, cost increases from inflation and tariffs, and increased competition as some of the biggest challenges facing our breweries. This means that many businesses have had to close. Right now on your screen is a list of Oregon breweries that closed some or all of their locations in 2025. And this is not a complete list, but this includes Rogue Ales and Spirits. They shut down all their operations just last month. Also Culmination Brewing, Crux Portland Pub, Assembly Brewing, Boss Rambler Beer Club, Gilgamesh Brewing, Newport Brewing, and Beer One Brewing. So this morning, we're bringing on Oregon's brewers and hop growers to ask them about the biggest challenges that they are facing, how they're adapting to them, and what they think the future of Oregon's beer industry looks like. So let's get this all started with Colin Rath, the co-founder of Migration Brewing. First, thank you so much for hosting us this morning, Colin.
Of course, always a pleasure hosting y'all.
Thanks. Okay,
Yeah.
So let's talk about 2025. Now that we're at the end of it, how was this year for you guys?
You know, it was an interesting year, let's put it that way. It's been some trials and tribulations. You know, as we were talking earlier, I found that with less sales, we become a lot more focused on profitability and really trying to look at our bottom line and see where we can have cost savings. So with less money coming in, we have been able to become more profitable as a company. But that is with a lot of hard work, a lot of stress, a lot of watching what's going on around us, and a lot of being nimble and moving with the market as we see how it plays out.
Yeah, so what sort of challenges are you guys specifically seeing here at Migration?
So the biggest challenge is consumer habits. You know, consumer habits coming out of COVID, a lot of people reassess their relationship with alcohol, have gotten more healthy, which I can't blame anybody for looking at that, but so it's changing what they're drinking and how they're drinking, right? And so for us, the supermarkets have become a place where people are just not buying as much alcohol. A lot of that's probably due to inflation and the fact that they just don't have as much disposable income. What we are seeing some success in is people coming out for events and coming to the pubs. With that being the case, though, we have beer, wine, cider, seltzer, NA, beer. Like, we have everything that somebody could want as far as their palate goes, as opposed to the supermarket at this point in time. Beer is the offering we have at the supermarket. So if that's not what they're gravitating towards, it's not something that they're purchasing.
So you guys have been doing a lot of new stuff.
We have been
a lot of new products.
A lot of new products. We have some really fun products on the line. We're working with a group, Uncommon Concepts, on some RTDs, which, for those that don't know, ready to drink.
Ready to drink cocktails.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what people are really gravitating toward right
It
now.
is definitely one of the things they're gravitating towards. And as of now, these will be just a plain malt-based liquor that then we can add all kinds of different flavors and shrubs and different things to, which will create some really fun drink experiences.
So since you've maybe launched some of these new kind of things, what reaction have you seen from people?
So those haven't launched yet.
Okay.
That's going to be coming down the pike here before long. We'll probably use our Williams location as kind of an incubator to really launch those and get those in front of people and get feedback and try different flavors and see what that does. The biggest thing that we're working on here and what we've done is some contract brewing and working with amazing people like Kings and Daughters, who are going to be coming on in 2026. And it's really creating a economy of scale, allowing us to use a lot of the cooperage and brewing setup we have to assist in other breweries who have amazing tap rooms.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool program, and potentially helping out that brewery build up bigger too.
100%, and we've always been a collaborative community, right? Brewing is not competitors. We've always worked together on, somebody needs yeast, they'll text and say, can they get some yeast, and we'll get it to them, hops, grain, what have you. So it only makes sense that if there is capacity within breweries for them to work together and create those systems that allow people to not have to spend $1 million on a full production facility, but actually work with friends and other people in the industry.
Yeah. Okay, so according to the Brewers Association, I read that nationally craft beer sales are down 5% this year, and brewery closures continue to outpace openings. So when you hear something like that, how does that make you feel about, migration and about the industry as a whole?
It's definitely an interesting time, especially since, we opened back in 2010. We haven't seen a whole lot of that. We've seen some closures and some kind of bumps along the way, but not to the degree that we're seeing now. But I think there's an individual that's on Instagram that used to do the marketing for Revolution Brewing out in Chicago, Beer Aficionado. And I think he put it best in that he's saying, it's not a bubble that's bursting, it's a market that's maturing. And we're seeing that maturation point to where businesses like our own, we've got to be nimble, we've got to stay on top of our numbers, we've got to see where the market's going and be able to take turns and try different things that are going to meet them where they're at, right? Because the pendulum swung away from beer. Beer's been around for a very long time. The pendulum will swing back more in beer's favor. And in the meantime, we will continue to create some new fun products that may actually be something really cool that we wouldn't have done otherwise.
Yeah, it definitely gives you an opportunity to innovate. It
100%.
kind of forces you to do that, right?
100%.
And I think it's interesting also maybe how we kind of got here, like right after the pandemic. It seemed like 2021, craft beer in Oregon just boomed up, right?
Yeah.
And did a lot of breweries then open, and then maybe it's, we're kind of realizing,
I think a lot of them were open.
Okay.
I think it's more a matter of just not fully knowing their costs and knowing the business side of things that may have had them end up having to close, right? Because you see a boom like that, and we saw it, and then right on the other side of that boom was a cliff of people not buying as much. And if you aren't really quick to react, that lack of sales based on what your budgeting was is going to throw you in a tailspin.
Yeah. I hear you guys may be opening another location.
We are.
Can we talk about that? Because that's exciting.
We are hoping for the 23rd of this month. So follow our Instagrams and stuff. It's called 1847. It is not necessarily a migration project. We are the operator. What that means is we're going to have all sorts of different beers. We're going to be able to, again, talking about friendships and that, we're going to be able to have your Ruse Brewings on. You're going to be able to have your Gold Dot on. You're going to be able to have all of these things and relationships and breweries that we want to highlight and celebrate and be in that space. And so it's a food cart pod. To begin with, there will probably be 3 to 5 carts. There is space for 17 carts. It's a 3-story bar right in downtown Milwaukee. We're really just waiting to kind of get through the rest of inspections and then be able to launch that project.
Exciting. And is there anything, to help out the industry, anything in, legislatively or with regulations, either at the state or the local level, that you think could maybe be changed or eased that could possibly help you guys out while you're going through this kind of challenging time?
Yeah, I mean, nationally, I think Ron Wyden has always been a huge proponent for craft beer, especially in Oregon and nationwide. And so I think he and his contingent are doing everything they can to try to do it at that level. I think locally, the biggest thing, and it's been more and more in the news, is we've got the highest tax rate in Multnomah County in the country. And that is not only hurting craft beer, it's pushing business out, it's ruining the tax base. Like, we just need to reassess what that is to allow business, small business, and attract other business into the city.
So if someone's watching this right now and they say, I love Oregon beer, I love this beer industry, I know how important it is to the state, what can they do to help you guys and keep you guys open?
Go out and enjoy it. I mean, the biggest thing that we see, right, is we're coming up on dry January, which is always tough on breweries, but understand a lot of breweries have food. They have NA products. They have different events going on. Like, go out, support them, enjoy, buy a 6-pack, save it for February 1st so that you can drink it as soon as you're out of dry January. But I think that's the thing, really, in the grand scheme of things, beer or otherwise, we just all need to be focused on the dollars we're spending, spend them local, spend them with companies you appreciate, and that will go a long way for any company.
That's a great point for anything. You're
Yeah.
right. Colin Rath, co-owner of Migration Brewing, thank you so much for
100%.
having us here.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Yeah. Okay, as we head to break, we do want to hear from all of you. So please use your phone's camera to scan this QR code on your screen to answer this question. Have your beer drinking habits recently changed? So right now, we have about 14% of you say that you are drinking more, 50% of you say you're drinking less, 7% of you say you're drinking other beverages, and 29% of you say you just, don't drink beer and probably never have. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to keep checking this throughout the show, so please vote, scan that QR code, and we're going to keep showing these results all morning long. Hello, everybody, and welcome to ARC PDX. I'm Wesley Ogle, and ARC PDX is on the road this morning. We are here at Migration Brewing in Gresham to explore Oregon's beer industry. Now, Oregon's beer industry brings in $8.9 billion of economic activity to the state every year. It also accounts for more than 46,000 jobs. That's according to an economic impact study by Beer Serves America. At the national level, the Brewers Association reports that brewery closures are outpacing brewery openings. So this morning, we're asking Oregon's breweries about the challenges that they're facing and how they are adapting to them. And one of those breweries is Von Ebert. They were actually able to grow during these challenging times, doubling brewing capacity this past year and adding alternatives to beer. So joining me now is Von Ebert Brewmaster Sam Pecoraro, who is also the outgoing president of the Oregon Brewers Guild. Sam, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you. Okay, so let's start with how this past year went. How was 2025? I know you guys made a big move from the west side to the east side.
Yeah, we did. We moved from our downtown Pearl location to the bottom of Mississippi Avenue and opened up a larger production facility that really opened up capacity for us and able to, finally give people the beer that we've been promising for many years now.
How has that move been going? Do you think it's working out?
Yeah, I do. We're 8 years old, about to have our 8th anniversary in April here, and we've spent many years as a couple of small brew pubs that weren't able to meet demand. And as of this summer, yeah, we got a new brew house up and running, new big facility, and yeah, able to finally meet demand. And that loosens up a little bit of R&D capacity and make new fun things.
Very cool. Okay, we're hearing a lot of breweries are dealing with some challenges like changing drinking habits and rising costs. What challenges are you guys dealing with specifically lately?
Yeah, we're dealing with all the same challenges everybody else is. Overall, nationwide, the industry's down another 4%. That means that if we're going to grow, we have to work that much harder to be able to do it. And I think we're very fortunate in this industry to be a growing brewery and not a shrinking one.
Very true. So what have you guys been doing to meet those challenges? Have you guys been changing what you're doing or coming out with new products?
Yeah, both. The consumer is really not going out as much right now. A lot of people going to grocery stores to look for products. So number one for us was getting into grocery store and making sure that that the consumer was able to pick up our beer where they want to pick it up. And second, coming out with a lot of new products. We have a seltzer on tap in our tap room right now. We're coming out with a bunch of functional hop waters that'll be really fun. Just trying new things and making sure that we're keeping it exciting.
Yeah, that's an interesting part of all this, like the hop water and the hard seltzers. What sort of reaction are you seeing from consumers? Are people getting excited about those, alternatives to traditional beer?
There's definitely some interest. Yeah, they're not shrinking as fast as beer has. It reaches a new consumer. So in this market, you really can't sit back and be lazy about it. You got to be proactive and make sure that you're trying to reach those new consumers.
Right. And, according to the Brewers Association, at least nationally, craft beer sales are down 5% this year, and brewery closures continue to outpace openings. When you hear those statistics, how does that make you feel about the beer industry and about Von Ebert specifically, your own business?
Yeah, it's challenging. Those are scary numbers to look at, and it's not just this year, it's been several years in a row. We just have to make sure that we're doing our part to protect Oregon beer and, make sure that our taxes are staying the same and that we're not going to, put anybody in a more difficult position in the industry, and make sure that, like I said before, we're doing our part to be exciting and a place that people want to experience.
And you are just about to end your term as the president of the Oregon Brewers Guild, which is a nonprofit organization with a mission to promote and protect the state's brewing industry. So what are those conversations like, that you're having with those other brewers? What were they like this past year? What were you guys talking about?
Yeah, there's been a push to increase taxes on our industry, and that's been front and center to make sure that, Oregon is beer, right? I mean, we've got, a good portion of the world's farmers are here growing hops for us, tap rooms, breweries. This is part of Oregon's identity, and we're trying to protect that and make sure that, our industry isn't getting kicked when we're down.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that. It's a proposed tax, right? Can you explain what that would be on and how you guys are thinking that will affect the industry?
Yeah, so there's been a nationwide push to increase taxes on all alcohol industries, and I'm not going to speak to any particular one, but it's just our stance that right now there's no way that we're going to allow that to happen. So make sure that you're letting your local state representatives know that it's not in the best interest of Oregon beer to increase that.
And that's definitely one thing I know you're focusing on, but is there anything else maybe with the legislature or with regulations or maybe other fees or taxes or things you have to pay that you think should or could change that would maybe make it easier for the beer industry in Oregon to survive and thrive?
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit larger. There's increased costs all around across the board. Everything we're paying for, if it's packaging materials, if it's raw materials, all our costs are going up, and that's really hard to weather. So if you want to support your local brewery, head on out to their tap room and make sure that you're buying beer over their own bar. So visit us in Mississippi or at our Glendoveer location in East Portland or at our Beaverton location out west.
And can you give our viewers an idea of just how important from your perspective, or how big of a deal Oregon's beer industry is to Oregon's economy, or the local economy here, specifically in Multnomah County too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you stated it at the opening. It's billions and billions of dollars. It's a big deal here with tons of people employed up and down the supply chain. You got to remember, it's not just people working in a tap room or in a brewery. It's all of the distributors. It's all of the farmers, the hop growers, barley growers. It's a lot of people involved, and it's not just an isolated alcohol industry. It's part of Oregon's identity.
And can you reveal any other future plans? I mean, I know you have the hop water coming out. You did just make that big move, but any other things that you guys are talking about or thinking about doing to try to keep, navigating these challenges and come out, ahead of them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some big news coming up January 1st. We're going to have a new flagship IPA in addition to volatile substance that we've had for many years now. Now that we're caught up, we're able to bring some new core brands on, and we're really excited for this to go straight to 6-pack. And this will be our first core brand West Coast IPA. So very excited for that.
So that means like you're doubling down there on traditional beer, even though we're seeing these changing drinking habits, and you're thinking it'll pay off.
Yeah, absolutely. We wouldn't be doing it if we didn't think it was going to pay off.
Yeah, that's a great point. Smart business decision. All right, Sam Pecoraro, Brewmaster from Von Ebert Brewing. Really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
So joining us live right now is Lisa Allen, the head brewer and owner of Heater Allen Brewing, and also the incoming president of the Oregon Brewers Guild. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us on ARC PDX this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay, so I want to start with just how this past year was specifically for Heater Allen Brewing. How was 2025?
2025 was a decent year for us. I think that we were actually able to grow a little bit. Part of that was looking at other markets outside of the state. We actually sell a decent amount of beer to California as well as Washington, and doing a couple of drops in states, in other states throughout the country, just small drops. So we actually had an okay year. The first quarter of 2025 was really rough, as I think it was for a lot of breweries. But yeah, overall, we had a pretty good year.
So how are you feeling now that the year's ending and you're going into 2026? What does 2026 kind of look like for you guys?
I'm trying to stay optimistic. I actually think that we have some kind of plans that we're working on, just of beers that we're coming out with, and again, kind of selling to some of those different markets during the off season. And so I'm, hoping that we have a good year, have a better quarter than we did first quarter than we did in 2025. But yeah, trying to stay optimistic, and yeah, and also we newly renovated our tap room this summer. And so we're really hoping to get some things to bring folks in during the winter as well, during some of those slower months.
Yeah. So, we're talking a lot this morning about changing consumer habits, rising costs, making things a little bit difficult for breweries right now. What challenges are you guys specifically dealing with right now?
I mean, I think it is trying to draw people to your space. We're lucky in Oregon. We have a lot of great breweries to choose from and a lot of great breweries to visit. And I think, you need to kind of draw people in, and get people, especially like into your space. We have, we specialize at Heater Allen Brewing in lager beers specifically. And so I think that does kind of help that we kind of have this niche thing that we do that we're really known for. And we're, one of the better lager producers in the nation and known for that. So that also helps us personally.
Yeah. Are you guys like changing strategies at all to meet these challenges? Are you guys coming out with any unique maybe products that are adjacent to beer or non-alcoholic or anything like that?
We have talked about doing something like a hop water. We'll see if we end up kind of pursuing that. We have kicked around the idea of doing a non-alcoholic. It does require quite a bit of expense because it's a completely different process than what you would normally do to make beer. Or you have to have certain kind of equipment as well. So, but we have on that note though, we have tried to bring in kind of those types of products into our tap room so that we really do have something for everyone that comes in. If you just want to come in and play cribbage with your friend, but you're maybe, doing dry January and taking the month off, we want to have something for you to enjoy and, just still go out and check out the space and all of that.
Yeah. And you're also about to take on a new position. You're the incoming president of the Oregon Brewers Guild. That's a nonprofit organization whose mission is to promote and protect the state's brewing industry. So, as you're about to take over this position, how are you feeling going into this with so many of these kind of changes and challenges going on?
I think cautiously optimistic. I really just want the guild to be there to support Oregon breweries. And we're trying our best to do that with not only kind of social events to, get people together to talk about like what's working for their brewery and in their situation. But also we have a full-time lobbyist to help us out with anything that comes up in the legislature and all of that. So, we're really there. We want to help out breweries and try to make sure that, we don't have a lot more closures in the state. So optimistic
Yeah,
going in. And
can you tell us, of course, yeah, can you tell us at all about like any goals maybe you have for this first term of being president of the Oregon Brewers Guild, or what you guys maybe have talked about, doing as, all together in this next year?
I think one of the things we have a lot of members in the Portland area, and I think we would really like to get some more members from outside of the Portland area. So, we don't have a lot of members. A lot of the breweries in Eugene aren't members, and Salem. And so I think kind of one of our goals throughout the year is to do some outreach and reach out to those breweries specifically, and tell them the benefits of Oregon beer, or the Oregon Brewers Guild, and get them on board. So I think that's kind of one of the main things that we're looking for this year.
Okay, and according to the Brewers Association, this is nationally, craft beer sales are down 5% this year. Brewery closures continue to outpace openings. So when you hear these statistics, how does that make you feel about Heater Allen and also about Oregon's beer industry as a whole?
I mean, it's nerve-wracking. I think that we're lucky in Oregon where we do have a lot of great beer. And a lot of the people that own these breweries are, friends of mine. And a lot of these breweries are small businesses. I always like to remind people of that, this is your neighbor down the street that owns this brewery. And, the margins aren't really great on brewing either. So most of us that are in this industry are really in it because we love it. And so, I mean, to have someone's business fail in general is just a sad thing to have happen. So I just really kind of am, it's sad to hear those numbers and all of that. I feel like for us at Heater Allen, I think we're in a good place. We have some kind of stuff set up for our kind of, continuation into the future, including kind of, we've always had kind of a slow growth model, which I think has really been beneficial for us. And so even though those statistics are scary, I'm hopeful that I'm confident it won't at least happen to us anytime soon.
And it does seem too, like when I was looking at statistics, nationally and then specifically Oregon, it does seem like Oregon is still doing better, our beer industry here, than other states. Does that seem to be what you've been feeling and hearing?
Yeah, I mean, Oregon has been for a very long time known for the beer industry. We're lucky we have fantastic water here, which is why we're one of the reasons why we're able to make such great beer. We also have, it's a desirable place to live, so we have a talented pool of brewers that want to come and live here. And I think that just Oregonians as a whole kind of, like going to breweries and like the pub culture. I grew up in the Portland area, and I mean, back in the 90s, I remember my parents going to breweries. I feel like I kind of grew up with craft beer. So I think a lot of Oregonians feel that way. Even if, it's folks that have since moved to Oregon. We have this, very kind of passion around craft beer. And I think it's really great to see.
Yeah, definitely. Lisa Allen, head brewer and owner of Heater Allen Brewing, and also the new president of the Oregon Brewers Guild. Thank you so much for joining us on ARC PDX this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We are live here at Migration Brewing in Gresham to dive deep into Oregon's beer industry and the challenges that the industry is facing. And a big player in that are the hop growers. The Pacific Northwest contributes 98% of the total U.S. hop acreage, and right now there are too many hops in the supply chain. So joining us right now is Maggie Elliot, the Science and Communications Director for Hop Growers of America. Maggie, thank you so much for joining us on ARC PDX.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here.
So first, can you explain to us how important hop growing in the Northwest is, for these states and then also for the country and possibly even the world?
Yes, absolutely. I think that the hop industry is something that we should be very proud of here in the Pacific Northwest. Hops are this magical little cone that has the only substance, the only resin profile known to mankind that can imbue the particular bittering and aromatic profiles that really define beer, that make beer beer. It's very difficult to make beer without hops. And as you may imagine, there are a lot of countries around the world that want to be able to brew great beer, yet only very few can grow hops because it requires such specific growing conditions. So as you mentioned, the Pacific Northwest states of Washington, Idaho, and Oregon contribute 98% of total US production. And the United States itself as a player provides 40% of the world's supply of hops to the international brewing industry. So every year, the US hop industry, we export 40 to 50% of our entire crop abroad to over 60 countries. So it is a crucial, integral player in the international brewing scene.
Wow. So how is the health of the hop industry in the Northwest right now? I mean, we're hearing a lot about oversupply.
Absolutely. We witnessed an incredible explosion of hop acreage between 2011 and 2021, largely in part to the reemergence of the craft brewing industry in the United States. Craft beer uses about 5 times the amount of hops as macro industrial type lagers, and it doubled our acreage between 2011 and 21. In 10 years, it doubled our acreage. And then COVID hit. And a lot of people weren't going out to football games. They weren't going out to restaurants or bars. They weren't drinking as much draft beer on premise. And we started to witness this really huge oversupply, this glut in our market chain. So since 2022, we've had to reduce our acreage in the Pacific Northwest by a blistering 30%. Almost a third of our entire acreage has just evaporated in 3 years.
And what's the impact of that? What does that do, for these individual farms and also for the industry?
It is highly difficult. We've seen farms exit the industry. And unfortunately, as you may imagine, if you look around at other sectors of agriculture in the Pacific Northwest, we're seeing oversupply chains in many different markets. If you think about what else a grower can grow, right? If you look at apples, wine grapes, even, some different types of other commodities, they're all really struggling. So at this point in time, we're really seeing a lot of the hop production just lay empty. The trellis structure that hops require is very expensive. It's about $7,500 per acre of a production cost just for that trellis infrastructure. So growers aren't always going to just rip out that trellis to plant something else in. So right now at this point in time, we're just really seeing growers having to streamline their efficiencies and take the bite. And it's very difficult for our growers at this point in time.
Yeah, so what are they doing? I mean, what options are out there for them if they can't, be growing more hops like they were before? What do they do?
One aspect of the hop plant that's a little unique is that it is a perennial. You have the hop rhizomes, the rootstocks in the ground, and then every year it creates an annual vine or bine that we call it that goes up the top wire in the trellis. So every year the hop growers can idle the plants. That's where they don't string the plants. They just leave the roots in the ground and they let the plant live, but they're not going to harvest it. So they can keep the plants alive at a minimal cost. So we're seeing some hops come out, but we're also seeing a lot of hop acreage idled. So if you were to drive through the hop production areas of the Pacific Northwest, you would just see a lot of empty fields with those trellis structures that's just kind of vast and empty.
Wow. So how do you feel like knowing all of this right now when you're looking at 2026 and beyond into the future? How do you feel about the hop industry here in the Northwest?
It's been a highly distressing number of years. I think at this point in time, we're hoping that we've hit our bottom, that we've made some very drastic cuts all over the Pacific Northwest. We're hoping that we can kind of plateau, that we don't make a huge decrease in the next number of years, but we're also not expecting a fast rebound. We're watching the craft beer industry in the US contract slightly, ever so slightly, year on year. And so we know that hop demand likely will never be what it once was. So we're going to try to find our new equilibrium, our new balance to be able to support growers, support brewers, but not get ourselves into this mess of an oversupply again in the near future.
Yeah, does the fact that you're hearing, breweries kind of move to doing maybe like hop waters and things like that, does that give you hope?
I certainly am an advocate of hot water. I do hope that it is one of those elements that certainly catches catches waves and is able to help our industry. The interesting piece about hops is that it's 99.9% of hops go into beer. There's very few other uses for hops in the United States. Sometimes it's used as an antimicrobial, but largely it's always tied to beer. And so if we can find other extraneous uses of hops, that would certainly support our supply chain.
All right, Maggie, Elliot, a wealth of knowledge about this. Thank you so, so much for being on ARC PDX.
Most certainly, thank you.
So this morning, we're asking Oregon's breweries about the challenges they're facing and how they're adapting to those challenges. And one of those breweries joining us now is Leikam Brewing. We have Sonia Marie Leikam, the co-founder and owner of Leikam Brewing, a small woman-owned, family-run brewery on East Burnside. Sonia, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So I'm just so bummed for you because Sonia Marie was supposed to join us in person here, and you have to join us on Zoom because you guys got broken into. What happened? Tell us about this.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it looks like this morning around 5 a.m., our cameras went off and somebody broke into the brewery and tap room, broke a window, shimmied through the back kitchen, and rifled through and stole some things. So I am here wearing my small business owner hat in the most unfortunate of circumstances and waiting for Portland police to come take a report so we can start the filing process of insurance and the window replacements. And in the meantime, we just want to reassure our staff and make sure that everyone feels safe in the space and sort of readjust our security.
Yeah, and it's important to talk about this because this is a kind of a common occurrence that we see small businesses, restaurants, bars, breweries dealing with here in the Portland area a lot. Like, has this happened to you before? I'm sure you have friends who have also been broken into.
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness this is our first time with a physical break-in into the building. We've certainly had folks sleeping on the porch or using our outside sources of power to, charge their phones or be in the, receive some sort of shelter. It's definitely a challenge, and we continue to struggle. Unfortunately, many times it costs us more to replace the windows than and to replace the security than to actually replace what was stolen. So that's really unfortunate for us that the cost of actually the break-in is more than what was taken.
Right, yeah, that's so tough. Okay, so with that, not a great way to end 2025, but how was 2025 for your brewery?
2025 has been and continues to be a little bit of a challenge. We are very lucky to have navigated some pretty choppy economic times over the years. We're 11 years old, so we have lived through the pandemic. And what we're seeing now is, although our income coming in is slightly lower than in past years, about 8% less, what's really hitting us the most is our overhead expenses and the cost of utilities going up, the cost of staffing, all of the taxes that are coming in. And so just running the business has made it that we this year are unfortunately going to be ending the year in the red, which is not how we like to end the year, but we're going to keep on trucking, as they say.
Right. Have you guys been making any changes or maybe trying to change up the products that you guys are making, or cutting back a little bit to try to deal with these challenges?
Yeah, so, we made the decision to reduce our distribution. So we're self-distributed. So if you see my minivan driving around with Leikam Brewing logo on the back, that's actually us dropping off beer somewhere very close by. But we've made the decision to pull back on that distribution and to try to drive more sales into our tap room because that's a bigger profit margin for us. So we're spending a lot of time doing a lot of outreach and events. We do a lot already, but we have found that it's become more and more critical for us to organize things to get people in here. People are not just going out to have a pint of beer after work or hanging out with folks on the weekend. So that's really been a big shift for us.
Right. And I definitely want to talk about some like changes that could come. I understand there's a proposed tax in the Oregon legislature on beer, on other kinds of alcohol as well, and a proposal to sell spirits in the grocery stores. Tell me about how those could affect your brewery and maybe the industry as a whole.
Yeah, I think, it seems like every year we've got lawmakers that are wanting to introduce a beer tax. One year the proposal was almost a 3,000% increase on what we're already paying. We here as the alcohol industry, which means, wine, cider, beer producers, we're the third largest source of revenue for the state of Oregon already. We really bring, as $9 billion in economic activity between the farmers that we support, the agricultural piece. What people really forget is that we really are a farm all the way to consumer industry. And here in Oregon, we grow a lot of the hops and a lot of the products that we actually end up using. So it's a big challenge for us as the state is searching for more sources of revenue. They are every time looking to us, and unfortunately, we feel like we continue to give, but there's not any accountability for where that money has gone. We'd like to definitely see what has happened before, saying, okay, let's talk. But yeah, it continues to be a challenge.
So where you sit right now with, the challenges and the changes that you're seeing at the moment, how do you feel going into 2026? And how do you feel about, beyond that into the future of Oregon's beer industry?
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, one of the things that I see in 2026 as going to be a challenge is this idea of having ready to drink cocktails in our grocery stores. And that really will take up shelf space of breweries that are already producing and getting on the shelf. And it's very tough to get on the shelf. And we see, the continued challenge of getting folks in the door, wanting to support small. It's a lot easier to have Amazon or DoorDash deliver your beer. But ultimately, when you go into one of our tap rooms, you're supporting small businesses and also all of the employees and all of the farmers. So that's really what we see in 2026, some challenges with that. And hopefully, we get through dry January, which has been always a challenge for us, this marketing idea that to be healthy, you shouldn't drink any alcohol, when we really believe that, moderation is the key to everything. And so we hope that people will think about us in the month of January, which is a real struggle.
Yeah, Sonia Marie Leikam, co-founder and owner of Leikam Brewing, really appreciate you joining us this morning, especially with the circumstances of you guys getting broken into overnight. We really appreciate hearing from you still.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And drink Oregon beer. We love to have you in our spaces and really appreciate you all.
We are live here at Migration Brewing in Gresham to dive deep into the challenges facing Oregon's beer industry. And a big player in all that are the hop growers. The Pacific Northwest contributes 98% of the total U.S. hop acreage. And right now, there are too many hops in the supply chain. So joining us live this morning is Max Coleman, a 7th generation farmer with Coleman Agriculture. Max, thank you so much for joining us on ARC PDX this morning.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay, so we just talked with Maggie from Hop Growers of America, and she's saying that hop growers are in tough times right now. She's saying there's a lot of oversupply. You're having to cut back on your acreage. How are things feeling there for your hop growing at Coleman Agriculture?
Yeah, I would say that we are probably kind of in this spot where we are riding out the tough times and hoping for some better times ahead. Every season's a little bit different. We just wrapped up in kind of September with this last harvest. Felt like an average one to good. there weren't any really strong challenges within the actual farming side of things, other than the usual things that we fight every year. But overall, I would say we are getting to a point where it feels like the tough times may be coming, we might be coming out of them, but it depends on who you talk to. I like to remain optimistic. Otherwise, farming can be a bit tough.
Yeah, right. Totally. Did you guys have to cut back at all on your acreage? Did you guys have a bunch more hops that like you couldn't sell and had to go to waste?
Yeah, so this is about the third or fourth year that U.S. hop growing in general has declined in acreage, and we have on our farm as well. Some of those were contracts we expected to roll off, and some were kind of more a result of the oversupply of hops and kind of some post-COVID struggles around beer and kind of consumption of that.
How big of an issue financially is that for you guys? I mean, I know you do grow other things, including hazelnuts, which are are huge in Oregon, so those can hopefully keep you guys afloat. But did that really hurt your guys' bottom line?
Yeah, absolutely. We grow lots of other crops, including grass seed and things, but hops are a big chunk of the revenue because they're a specialty crop. They tend to pay a little better and cost more to raise. So you can't really replace those acres. An acre of wheat doesn't do the same thing for the farm as an acre of hops. So when we have impacts on our hops, it really hurts our bottom line for sure.
Yeah. Is there anything that you think maybe could change in terms of, I don't know, legislation or regulations or taxes or fees that could maybe help you guys out, specifically in the hop part of your business?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we've faced that's kind of been trouble for a while now is just the overall labor situation, including immigration and other things, as well as it's been a pretty big challenge to adapt to agricultural overtime. There used to be an exemption, and now that has gone away. So that's been very hard for us because our prices are set already. We can't just change our prices because it costs us more. So we're kind of getting squeezed in the middle between what we're able to be paid for the hops and what they're worth to brewers and what it costs us to raise them.
Yeah. So I know you're saying, right now you're trying to be optimistic and you think you're coming out of these challenging times, but if these changing drinking habits kind of stay the way they are, how are you feeling about going into 2026 and the farther future of Oregon's hop industry?
I think in the big picture, we're just not going to speculate and grow hops that we don't have sold. And that's been kind of the position of our farm for a while now. But the idea is only really grow the things we know will make it into a brew house. We don't want to grow anything that's going to sit in a warehouse for 10 years or get dumped somewhere and composted. And then I think it's more about thinking about what we can do as growers to kind of support the brewers, because breweries are really the only market for hops. So anything we can do as growers to help them and get that information to consumers is big.
Right. Max Coleman, 7th generation farmer with Coleman Agriculture. It was really important to hear from you, someone on the ground doing this work. Thank you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.
Welcome back, everybody. We are wrapping up our time here on our Arc on the Road show. We just did a deep dive into Oregon's beer industry. It brings in nearly $9 billion in economic activity to the state of Oregon each year and accounts for tens of thousands of jobs. But despite those big numbers, this thriving industry is showing signs of a slight slowdown, and a number of breweries have been forced to close. We asked Oregon's breweries about the challenges they're seeing firsthand and how they're adapting. They're doing some new, cool things. We also talked with hop growers for their insights on the current state of the industry. If you would like to see these conversations in full, you will be able to watch our full show on our Katu News YouTube page. And let's take one last look at our poll. Use your phone's camera to scan this QR code on your screen to answer this question. Have your beer drinking habits recently changed? So right now, about 18% of you say you're drinking more, 46% of you say you're drinking less, 9% of you say you're drinking other alcoholic beverages, and 27% of you say you don't drink beer. Thank you to everybody for chiming in on our poll. And thank you for joining us this morning. We go on the road every Friday to dive deeper into the big story of the week. And while we won't be on the road next Friday because of the Christmas holiday, we will be back here on January 2nd. So let us know what topics we should tackle next. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your day and a wonderful weekend, and happy holidays, everybody.